Most people think of their home as a fortress, 4 walls, a locked door, a place where the world can't touch you. We tell ourselves that as long as the deadbolt is turned and the windows are latched, we are safe. But on January 1st, 2021, Morgan Metzer learned a terrifying truth. A fortress is only as strong as the people you let inside the gates. Sometimes, the person you trust to protect you is the very person who has been studying your weaknesses, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It was 3:42 a.m., the kind of silence that only exists in the dead of winter in Georgia. A heavy, thick quiet. Inside her bedroom, Morgan was in a deep sleep, unaware that her sanctuary had already been breached. The silence wasn't broken by a window shattering or a door being kicked in. It was broken by a sound so subtle, it almost felt like a dream. The heavy, rhythmic click of a boot on carpet. Before she could even open her eyes to process the noise, a weight crashed down onto her chest. A hand, encased in cold black leather, was pressed violently over her mouth, muffling her first attempt at a scream. In the sliver of moonlight filtering through the blinds, she saw a figure. He loomed over her like a shadow given solid form. He was dressed in tactical black from head to toe. No skin was visible. No eyes could be seen behind the mask. Just the terrifying dark shape of a cowl, a mask that looked like a perversion of a childhood hero, whispering. When he spoke, the sound made her blood turn to ice. It was a distorted, gravelly rasp, a forced growl that sounded like it belonged on a movie screen, not in a quiet suburban bedroom. Dramatic tone. "You're going to regret this," he hissed. Morgan looked up into the darkness where his eyes should be, feeling the freezing metal of a pistol pressed firmly against her temple. This wasn't a robbery. This was something far more intimate. Pause. And far more terrifying. Serious tone. The intruder didn't move like a common thief looking for a quick score. He was calm, methodical. He pulled Morgan from the bed, his grip like iron. With practiced efficiency, he pulled out heavy-duty plastic zip ties. The sound of the plastic teeth clicking into place, that sharp zip sound, echoed through the house. It was the sound of her freedom being taken away. He bound her wrists so tightly they began to throb. Slows down. He didn't speak again as he dragged her through her own home. She was forced to walk past the photos of her children on the hallway walls, past the kitchen where she had made dinner just hours before. He led her to the back porch and pushed her out into the biting January air, whispering, "Wait for 2 car honks," the gravelly voice whispered into her ear. "If you move an inch before then, I'll come back, and I won't just leave you here next time." Then, as quickly as he appeared, he vanished into the tree line, melting into the shadows of the woods behind her property. Imagine those 40 minutes. Shivering in nothing but a thin nightgown, your wrists raw and bleeding from the plastic ties, staring into the black voids between the trees. In the distance, the world was celebrating the new year, but for Morgan, time had stopped. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of dead leaves in the wind sounded like his return. Every breath she took felt like a clock ticking down to her own end. But then, a light broke the darkness. High beams cut through the thick Georgia fog, sweeping across the porch. A truck pulled into the driveway. 2 sharp honks echoed off the surrounding houses. A man stepped out of the vehicle and ran toward the house. It was Rodney Metzer, her ex-husband. For months, Rodney had been playing a different role in her life. He had told her he was dying. He claimed to have aggressive pancreatic cancer, showing her medical documents and hospital letters that painted a picture of a man with only months to live. Out of pity and a sense of shared history, Morgan had let him back into her life. She wanted to support the father of her children in his final days. Rodney ran to the porch, gasping in horror as he found her huddled in the corner. He reached into his truck and produced a pair of pliers he happened to have within reach, and cut the zip ties from her wrists. He held her while she sobbed, his voice soft and comforting, a stark contrast to the monster in the mask. He called 911. He stayed by her side on the sofa, telling her over and over again that she was safe now. The hero had arrived to save her from the nightmare, but as the police arrived and began their sweep, the hero's story began to fray at the edges. Detectives noticed things that didn't make sense. There were no footprints in the soft, muddy earth leading away from the porch toward the woods. There were no signs of forced entry. And then, there was the timing. Rodney had appeared almost the exact moment the intruder said he would. Detectives seized his phone. What they found was a script, a digital blueprint for a horror movie that Rodney had written, directed, and starred in. The Google search history was a descent into madness. How to change your voice to sound like Batman. How to get sympathy from an ex-wife. How to tie zip ties so they can be cut easily. The detectives realized the cancer was a lie. The medical documents were fakes. It was all a long con to gain entry into her life. When they searched his apartment, they found the smoking gun. Tucked in the back of a closet was a black duffel bag. Inside was the tactical gear, the gloves, and the mask. Rodney had spent weeks in front of his mirror, practicing that gravelly, distorted voice, all to fulfill a twisted fantasy of being her hero. Rodney Metzer was sentenced to 70 years in prison, but for Morgan, the walls of her house will never feel truly solid again. The horror of this story isn't the man in the mask, it's the face behind it. It's the realization that the person who knows your every secret is the one most capable of using them to destroy you. As you lay in bed tonight, listen to the quiet of your house. If you hear a floorboard creak, is it just a wood? Or is it someone who has been practicing their lines, waiting for their cue to enter? Stay safe and subscribe for more chilling tales.